Hello and welcome to Researching Latinx American Ancestors. I'm Tessa Brawley Barker, a genealogy associate at Tulsa City County Library's Hardesty Regional Library in the Genealogy Center. This presentation is focusing on free online resources for Latinx American genealogy research, and it is based around our guide that we have created, which is available on our website at the link below. I'll click on it here so you can see. It's called Researching Hispanic / Latinx Ancestors. And in this presentation, I'm going to go through these resources step by step and point out some interesting sources for doing Latinx American genealogy research. So I wanted to start off with the distinction between using the term Latinx versus Hispanic. Latinx is an ethnic and cultural category, whereas Hispanic is a linguistic division. So Hispanic is referring specifically to Spanish-speaking countries. And I titled this presentation, Researching Latinx American Ancestors, because I'm focusing on all countries in Latin America, not just those that are Spanish-speaking. So we do have some resources that are applicable to Brazil, where Portuguese is spoken, and Haiti, where French is spoken, for example. So we're talking Latinx here. So first off, I wanted to go through some genealogy basics with you in case you're new to genealogy research. The first rule of genealogy is always to start with yourself. You want to complete an ancestral chart with all the information you know. So an ancestral chart is also called a pedigree chart. It's also called a family tree. And we have a free link to an ancestry chart on our website, on the Genealogy Center's website. I'm going to click to it here so you can see what it looks like. As you see here, we call it a pedigree chart. You always start off with yourself in the first place, and then work backwards from there. First using your father's information and then your mother's information. And then you'd move to your father's parents, your father's father, or your grandfather, and your father's mother, your grandmother, paternal grandmother, and then the same for your mother, and keep working backwards from there. But it's important to always start with what you know, which is either your information or perhaps your parents' information. But that is what is always recommended in genealogy, is starting with yourself and working backwards, not starting with great grandma. That makes it a lot trickier. Once you've completed an ancestral chart, if you find that there are any gaps, that's the time you want to interview your relatives to see if they can fill in any holes and information that you don't have. You can also gather information from vital records such as birth and death certificates or marriage licenses. Family Bibles will sometimes have the names of relatives, family members' birth dates and names listed in them. You can find information on family members from old letters or scrapbooks, newspaper clippings, perhaps someone clipped an old obituary record. Things like that will pop up in genealogy research and can be very helpful. And if your family was living in the United States prior to 1950, you can always search the US Census records. The US Federal Census is a tally of the population of the United States, and it's been taken every 10 years since 1790 to the present day. The most recent census was taken in the year 2020. However, the most recent census that you can search is the 1950 census. And this is available on Ancestry.com or by using the Ancestry Library Edition database that is available at all TCCL locations and at the Genealogy Center. At the Genealogy Center, we have people who are experts who can help you use Ancestry Library Edition if you're completely new to it. And you can start with any relatives who you know who were living in the United States in 1950 and begin working backwards from there. And that has a lot of important information about where your family was living, who was living in the household, ages, There's even immigration information on certain census years, which is really helpful information to have. So now I'm going to get started with the free online resources to get you started in your genealogy research. These are all those resources that I mentioned that were in the guide here that we created. Again, this guide is on our website and is free to download. We also have physical copies in the Genealogy Center if you want to take one. So the first resource we're going to take a look at is Ancestry.com's Researching Spanish Language Records page. And when you start doing research on Latinx American ancestors, unless you're specifically focusing on Brazil, you are going to encounter some Spanish language documents at some point. So these word lists and genealogical symbols for Spanish language records are very useful. So Ancestry has created these links. I'm going to pop this out for a moment so that we can see this page. Takes a minute to pop up. So as you can see, if you click on Spanish genealogy terminology, it's a little translated dictionary here with common terms you'll find in Spanish genealogy records and their translations into English. So año aproximado means estimated year, for example. So this is very helpful if you come across some terms you've never heard before. They also have a link for symbols, common symbols found in genealogical texts, which is useful. I particularly liked these two articles on Hispanic family history and beginning Spanish research. In the Hispanic family history article, I particularly found a lot of really interesting information in this, which I've included in my presentation on the next slide, that I just wanted to mention and highlight in case you don't have time to read that article, but it's pretty short, so it's a good read. What I learned was that Catholic Church parish records are excellent, some of the best in the world. And this is very important for Latinx America because it is a predominantly Catholic region. There's lots of Catholic churches in the region. You might have Catholics in your family history. So if you're looking for Catholic church records, you'll find a lot of information on your family, particularly for Spain, Mexico, and Peru. So in Spain, the oldest known church records trace back to 1394. In Peru, they trace back to 1537, which is crazy that they have records going back that far. And another interesting fact that I found was that after 1790, Hispanic baptismal records contain the name of the child, both parents, and all four grandparents, which is really great information to find in a baptism record. Usually in baptism records, it will just list the name of the child and both parents. So to have all four, both paternal and maternal grandparents' names listed is really remarkable and would be very helpful in genealogy research. So diving into, if you know the area where your family was from, you can check out which diocese of the Catholic Church is in that area and see if they have records going back to when your family lived there. And if they do, your family will likely be in those records. So that's something to keep in mind if you're trying to find genealogy information. Also, we got some explanation in that article on the double Spanish surname, which can be kind of confusing if you're not familiar with it. So the first surname is paternal and the second surname is maternal, which is just very useful in tracking family history by having both the paternal and maternal name. And they gave the example of Juan Gomez Jimenez marries Maria Vega Fernandez. So their son's name would be Jose Gomez Vega, taking both names from each parent. They also mentioned in the article that most Hispanic women don't change their names. which I'm not sure is true, but perhaps historically it is true. And if so, it's very easy to find the maiden name of the woman in the marriage, which can sometimes be very difficult when women take their husband's name, trying to figure out, going back several generations, the original maiden name can be tricky. So that's very useful. The next site that I'm going to take a look at is Family Search. Specifically, I'm looking at their research wiki, but just to give you a general overview, FamilySearch.org is one of the biggest genealogy websites. Unlike Ancestry, it does not require a subscription, but you do have to create an account to use FamilySearch.org. You have to create an account, but it's free. Once you create an account, you're able to access all of their digital records. They have tons of records online. They have, it is run through the Mormon Church, which has one of the largest genealogy libraries in the world. And they have a huge collection on pretty much every country is represented in some aspect in their library. So it's a great resource. Not all of their materials are digitized, but a lot of them are. So this site is really great to explore, to learn about your family history, and to just dive in and look at all their catalog and look at their resources. They just have tons of digital records. So first we're going to look at the Hispanic genealogy resources online. This is through their Family Searches wiki. The wiki it's basically like a Wikipedia page, but it's specifically for Family Search. As you can see, they have a list of resources online organized by country. Well, it's actually by location, and then further organized by country. So they start off with the Caribbean, then they have some free resources online for Costa Rica, for Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, and then down to Central America and further down. So these are all free resources that have been digitized online. This is interesting, like Italian surnames from Argentina specifically. Interesting records, but this is just one of the Hispanic Latinx genealogy resources on Family Search's website. You can find lots of things in their wiki. It's just, they have tons and tons of things in here. So it's really fun to explore and dive into this resource. I love the Family Search wiki, but I'm just touching on that one briefly there. I'm going to pop back up to my presentation here. The next resource we're going to talk about is the San Antonio Public Library's Hispanic Genealogical Research Guide. So a lot of the resources that I'm going to be talking about in this presentation are specific to Mexico, because there's obviously a big relationship between the United States and Mexico. So a lot of immigration, migration between the two countries. So a lot of these resources are Mexico specific. This one is specifically like Texas and Mexico specific because it's in San Antonio. So focusing on South Texas, northern Mexico kind of area. But this is just a nice guide with information on what files they have in their collection, how to do Hispanic genealogy research, books that they recommend, periodicals they recommend, websites of interest, and the diocese in their area where you can search for Catholic Church records, as I mentioned. They also have a list of some societies there as well. So this is just a great guide for getting started, specifically if you are from the Texas area or if you have family from the Texas-Mexico border area. The next site we're going to take a look at is the Caribbean Genealogy Library. I'm going to click through to this here so you can see what the website is like. So this website is in English because it is based in the Virgin Islands, and it is specifically based on the Virgin Islands. However, it is useful to those doing research on family from other Latin American areas in the Caribbean, such as Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, etc., because they do have resources related to those countries as well. But this is the largest genealogy library in the Caribbean. So it's useful to take a look at their site and see what they have. If you're looking for the Caribbean area, ancestors in the Caribbean area, I would check out their site. Next, we're going to talk about the Corpus Christi Public Library. This is very similar to our San Antonio Public Library Hispanic genealogy page. This one is very similar, but it's more for the Corpus Christi area. So as you can see, they have a little overview, links to different digital collections and societies that they recommend, and some church records that they have for South Texas and Northern Mexico on microfilm in their collection specifically. So again, this is specifically for the South Texas, Northern Mexico area. If you have relatives from that region, this site is particularly useful for you. Next, we're going back to the Caribbean, the CubaGenWeb.org. I'm going to go ahead and click through to this site. This site, of course, is specifically for Cuban genealogy research. Resources for those searching for their Cuban roots. So I'm going to scroll down to their advice section on the sidebar here. They have a useful information on getting started doing your genealogy research for Cuban ancestry. If we go back, how to share your family tree, which is really great. And they have resources on Cuban family trees that they have available by specific family name or within certain databases and surname compilations. So it's really useful to, if your family is descended from Cuba, to check out and see if you can find your family tree information on CubaGenWeb. That's my favorite thing that they have about this site. I love being able to just look up your surname on a site. It's one of my favorite things. So when doing genealogy research, so I really like that site for that. And I have a couple other sites in this presentation that do that as well. Next, we're going to look at Cindy's List. Cindy's List is another big genealogy site on the website. It's basically an index organized by region. So we're specifically going to look at the Central and South American region here. And one thing to note about genealogy websites is that there are a lot of pop-up ads on a lot of them, and you just have to scroll past them or click through them and ignore them. A lot of them are just sort of crowdsourced websites. That's sort of how Cindy's List is run. So they do have a lot of ads. So you just have to ignore those ads and move through to the good information past the ads. So here we have their Central and South American page. I'm going to scroll down. As you can see, they have the category index for all these different topics, like directories, immigration information, language names, libraries, archives, and museums. You can further work down to a specific country if you want to. These obviously aren't all the countries. I'm on the main Central and South America page. If you go back, you can find specific countries like Mexico, for instance, or they have the Spain one linked here. These are just listed as related categories. Right now I'm focusing on Central and South America as a whole, which covers all of these countries, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the records link to see what kind of records they're listing. So the neat thing about Cindy's list is it includes this is like places where you can find these records online, or it could be a link of like where to purchase the records online. As you can see, they have this little green free symbol, which means that so it's saying here, Argentina baptisms from 1645 to 1930. This collection in FamilySearch.org is free. So you can search if you have family from Argentina, born between that time period, you can search the baptismal records in FamilySearch.org. It doesn't mean that that has the baptism records for every single church in Argentina, but it has a lot of them apparently, and you can probably read more about it if you click through. But if I'm not seeing any of them on this page, but if they're records that you have to purchase, like through a subscription fee or something like that, you would see a little $sign here instead of where it says free. So that's a fun thing about Cindy's list, is that she tells you whether you're going to have to pay for something or if it's free, because as you'll discover doing genealogy research, when you're trying to get vital records, you do often have to pay for them because they're usually government records and you have to pay through a government office to access those records. So that's something I really like about Cindy's list and makes it a really useful site. And the next page is the Cindy's list for Puerto Rico. I just wanted to highlight this because you won't find Puerto Rico in the Central and South American page. Because Puerto Rico is a US territory, it's located under the United States. So you have to find it under the United States. And then there's, let's see, if we click through the United States, you'll see they list all the states. And if you scroll down to the P's, there's Puerto Rico. Oh, here's one of our ads. We have to close that. And then we get to Puerto Rico. And so here they have, birth, marriage, and death records for Puerto Rico. And as you can see, they have some collections of family search that they link out to. So I just wanted to highlight that and make sure you knew where to find Puerto Rico. And also I wanted to mention for Puerto Rico specifically, under the Census tab, I learned through some research that even though Puerto Rico didn't become a United States territory until 1917, it has been recorded in the United States Census since 1910. So you can search the 1910 through 1950 census records for Puerto Rico on Ancestry.com or on Ancestry Library Edition at the library. So that's useful to know that you can go back all the way to 1910 on census records for Puerto Rico. Now I'm going to get into my first Spanish language resource. This is the Genealogia Hispana, testing out my Spanish ability to pronounce genealogy in Spanish, which is tricky to say in English and Spanish, I have to say. This particular resource is a Spanish language genealogy blog that offers courses, research tips, and links to records and surname lists. So I'm going to go ahead and click through to this. Now, if you don't speak Spanish, this one, if you're using Google Chrome as your browser, you can use this handy little Google Translate pop-up and click on English. And that helps you navigate this website. So I'm going to do that and make it in English here. But basically, this is a genealogy blog. So it has different articles basically based on these different genealogy topics and subjects. So like first steps for genealogy, on how to get started, how to start my family tree, for example. They have articles on DNA, articles on surnames. You saw it said apellidos there for a minute before the translator kicked in. So this is just a fun place, like research tips, everything. And I mean, they do offer courses as well, as you can see, but it's just a great place when you're just getting started using genealogy, and it's specific to Hispanic genealogy or Latinx genealogy. So it's very useful specifically for researching and learning how to get started. So that is the value in this site, which is a fun one to look through and read all the articles and look through everything they have there. Next, I'm going to look at the Genealogical Society of Hispanic America. A lot of these resources that I'm talking about, a lot of the organizations specifically that I'm talking about, such as this one, this is a society that you can join. A lot of these are based in the Southwestern United States. So, you know, like Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, California, Arizona, those states have a lot of Latinx and Hispanic genealogy societies. So if you're interested in like meeting up with people or, you know, joining meetings or something like that, they're located mostly in the Southwest is where I'm finding a lot of the organizations, but they probably allow for membership from out of state and do Zoom meetings, I would imagine. Most people do now. So this specific organization, the Genealogical Society of Hispanic America, is primarily for people who are of Mexican or Spanish descent, who settled in the Southwestern United States, as I said. It's actually based, this particular organization is based in Colorado, but I think they have a Southern California chapter, Utah chapter, Fray Angelico Chavez chapter. So they have some other chapters. They also publish a journal. If you go to the publications section, let's get on the drop down here. Here's their journal. It's called Nuestras Raíces. And you have to be a member to get the journal. You can purchase individual issues if you're interested in that. But what I wanted to look at is their journal index, which I think it's great that they have the index available online so you can look through it. So you can search for family names, communities, census records by journal issues. So again, I love being able to just search for a particular family name, and they have a list of family names that are mentioned in their journal. So articles have been written in their journal on these specific families. So if you are looking for a particular last name and you have family from this area, you know, in the Southwestern US, then I would look into seeing if you can access one of these journals, if you can find your family name. That might be fun to research. So I really like their journal index. I think it's great. They have the index online so you can figure out what's in the journals without just having to purchase the journals that one-off. Let's see. Get back to my presentation here. Okay, so here's our next Spanish language site. This is La Guía de Información Genealógica. So let's click on through to this one here. Again, I'm going to use my little trusty translator here to English. There we go. So they have this big database of passengers to Argentina during this particular century. But my favorite thing on this website that they have is the archives in Latin America. Oh, gotta pop up that again, gotta close it. Cerrar means close in Spanish, so you gotta have it in Spanish. Gotta know what close is in Spanish and in English to close those pop-up ads. So we've got these different archives in Latin America. So these are the different countries that they've included. I mean, just this general page doesn't have a lot of information. What you want to click on are specifically the countries. So I'm going to click on Uruguay, where one of my friends is from, and look at what list of archives they have for Uruguay. They have this like basic information on Uruguay up at the top. And they have this, genealogy association for Uruguay, like an official genealogy organization in the country of Uruguay. As you can see, because it has a UI code there. They have some articles, again, pop-up ads, you just got to scroll past them. And then they have records by region. So they have records that are available for like the capital, Montevideo, and then these other regions in Uruguay. Their civil registry, like they have information, like it began to function in 1879. And compulsory civil marriage from 1885. Again, another pop-up ad we gotta scroll past, but if you keep going down, you just find all this information that they've compiled on all these different archives in the country of Uruguay. So this is really useful information if you're searching for ancestors for a specific country in South America or Latin America, to find resources by region. I mean, they just have tons. This page just goes on and on and on. As you can see, they have tons of information. So this is my favorite thing about this website is it's like a one-stop shop for finding archives that will have different genealogy records for a particular South American or Latin American country. Next, I'm going to look at the Hispanic Genealogical Research Center of New Mexico. So, as I said, this is another one that's in the southwestern United States, specifically New Mexico for this one. Let's go ahead and click through to the site. Now, this is another genealogy organization that you can join. It is specifically focused on people who are from New Mexico, of Hispanic descent in New Mexico. So it's very specific, but they do have a really cool database, which I really like. If you have family from this region, this database is really cool. So this is the Great New Mexico Pedigree Database. So I'm going to click through to this. So in this, you can search the pedigree chart of New Mexico's Hispanic ancestry. And if you scroll down, you can click on a name. And again, I love being able to just click on a name. That is my favorite thing to be able to do, just research a surname. So we can try, let's see, Fajardo, see what we find for this one. Some of them don't have a lot and some of them have a ton of stuff. So again, they've like outlined the people here with the last name, with the surname of Fajardo, and the place, and it's by marriage records. So these are the males and the females, and you can see not all these men have Fajardo as a last name, but the females do. Actually, we don't have any males with the last name Fajardo. That's interesting. So they're all on the women. It's all the women with that last name for this particular last name. That's interesting. Sometimes when you click on a name, I mean, you'll find it on both sides because it's tracking both men and women with this last name. It's not just one gender or the other, but it gives you information on when they got married. These are all recent marriages. Interesting. Oh no, last change. Oh, that's when it was edited. Excuse me. These are the dates of when they were actually married. So this is when this data has been added into the site. That's what that last change is you see there. Okay. So that's my, oh, and you can go alphabetically by, so just, these are all the L last names, and you can just pick on, and you can see how many they have for particular last names. So this is really fun. But it's, again, this is specific to the state of New Mexico. So these are the Great New Mexico Pedigree Database, but it's all people of Hispanic descent who live in New Mexico. Next, we're going to look at the Hogar de Dallas. This, again, is another organization based in the American Southwest. This one, we're going back to Texas. This is an organization that's based out of Dallas. I want to pronounce it like it's Spanish and say Hogar de Dallas, but the HOGAR stands for Hispanic Organization for Genealogy and Research. So I guess you do pronounce the H. I'm going to click through this. Oh, they have a pop-up, but it's about something they have coming up, an event they have coming up. That's neat. So they don't have a ton on their site. They do have some information under particular sections. On their resources page, you'll find some digitized genealogy books, which is great to find books that are like fully digitized and available for download. And genealogy books, that's not always the case unless the books are really old. As you can see, this is from the Hispanic Genealogical Society of Houston's website. These are all, specific to families from Nuevo León, Mexico. Under there, if you click on more here and scroll down to videos, they also have a free genealogy video on genetic genealogy of Northeastern Mexico. So if you have family from Northeastern Mexico, this would be something you want to check out to learn about genetic genealogy for that region. So again, this is a very Mexico-specific site based out of Texas. But if you have family from that Texas, Mexico region, might be useful information for you there. Next, we're going to look at the National Archives Hispanic Latino Heritage page. I'm going to go ahead and click through to this. So the National Archives keeps the records of the United States government and also, the records of its people, including Hispanic and Latino people in the country. So they have created this specific page that is dedicated to Hispanic and Latino heritage. They have it organized by these different subjects, and they have these different collections that relate to these specific subject areas. So this is like the arts, entertainment, and culture section. They have diplomacy, foreign affairs, education, civil rights, and they have this like family history research section. So if you click through here, they have these different record collections they have available. Manifest of Alien Arrivals at Calexico, California between 1907 and 1952. Alien Case Files between 1944 and 2003, and Mexican border crossing records. So that's interesting if you're researching your family's immigration to the United States, your ancestors. Then they have these links to these other websites. As you can see, they're ones that we've looked at too. But they have these further subject areas to explore. And they just link out to these different record collections that they have available that are specific to Hispanic and Latinx Americans, notable Hispanics in the US. So it's a fun, just one collection there under women, but so it's a fun page to explore. It's cool to see their digitized records. Not everything at the National Archives is digitized. If there's a collection that you can just find a finding aid for, which is just a description of the collection, but it doesn't have the content's digitized, you can email them and ask them to search their collections for you. So there might be a fee associated with that, but I'm not sure. But you can always ask them to look and find out how much that would cost on their website. Let's see. Next, we're going to go a little bit more local. So this is the Oklahoma Historical Society's website, and they have a page on Latino history in Oklahoma. And this is more of a historical collection rather than a genealogy collection. This is a historical website, but I just think it's really interesting and fun to read through. It basically starts, it's organized into these different time periods. So it starts in the earliest days of when Hispanics and Latinos were in Oklahoma, going all the way back to Coronado, when he marched through Oklahoma territory before it was a state even, with his conquistadors, and moves into the, Vaquero period with the cowboys. Then the 1800s, the Great Depression, and, mid 20th century all the way to the present. So this is really a fun site to look through and read about when your family might have immigrated into the state of Oklahoma. It's really interesting to read. One thing that I found really interesting is that they say on this site that in the early days of statehood, the Latinx population was almost exclusively Mexican, but later, post-World War II, large groups of Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Venezuelans, and Guatemalans all moved to the state in these different migration patterns. So it's just really interesting to sort of learn when your family might have come into the state based on where they were from, these different migration patterns. So it's really fun to read through this and interesting about the Latino history in Oklahoma. Next, we're going to look at the Society of Hispanic Historical and Ancestral Research. So this is another society that you can join. This one is based out of California, though. Let's go ahead and click through to it. They have a really beautiful, engaging website. It's fun with these pop-up images and stuff. Again, the resources on this website are very specific to Mexico. Just to give you a heads up, if you're not looking for Mexico, this one probably is not for you. Oh, here they have another pop-up about but it's specific to their organization. You just have to click through that. Under their resources page, they have all these different links. So they have a lot of they have tutorials for getting started. They have, I really like this page, their archives and libraries. They have a list of different genealogy collections in different libraries. And they're organized by state, as you can see. So these are the top ones are for Arizona, then California, then Texas, then New Mexico. Then it goes down to actual Mexico. And they have these different record collections in different libraries, or looks like some of them might be online resources too, but a lot of information in here. So I really like having a list of library resources. And then under Mexico archives here, well, as you can see, they have it even more specific. They have Northwestern Mexico, Northeastern Mexico, Eastern, Central, Southern Mexico. So very Mexican specific. Let me click on Mexican archives here. So these are different genealogy records available from state archives in Mexico. These are available through Family Search and the General Archives in Mexico. And then they have different databases for the different states in Mexico. So if you're looking for a specific state, you can figure out where the civil registry for Tabasco is, for example. So lots of cool links specifically for Mexican records on this site. Really useful for doing Mexican family research. So this is the Southern California Genealogical Society. This library is specifically for all of Southern California, not necessarily just for Latinx American ancestry. However, let's click through to this. The Genealogical Society of Hispanic America's Southern California chapter maintains their reference library at this location. So, and you can find it by, if you click on this About section and go down to affiliated societies, and they have the second one here, Genealogical Society of Hispanic America. So if you have family from that California, Mexico region, you're going to find a lot of information in this library if you're searching for that area. So, and at this library, they have records, maps, Hispanic family histories, and books. And they also focus not only on California, though they also focus on Arizona, Colorado, Mexico, New Mexico, and Texas. So again, those southwestern states, very heavily represented, particularly for Mexican family research. You can search in their catalog for resources for this particular collection. Not everything is digitized here, but this is a research library, so you can email the librarian and ask them about a particular resource if you're interested in finding out more. Finally, I want to highlight our Tulsa City County Library Hispanic Resource Center. So I'm going to click through to their page here. This is not a genealogy center. This is a cultural center. Page is taking a minute to load. Here we go. Look at this pretty picture of all these flowers for Hispanic Heritage Month. So pretty. So this is a cultural center that is particularly for the Latinx community in Tulsa. So if you scroll down, you'll see that they have historical and cultural resources, they have community resources, they have Latinx books and authors, and citizenship and immigration information. And right now is Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th, actually. It crosses over into 2 months, and they have a lot of events going on right now. So it's a fun time to visit the center. And if you're just interested in having more Spanish language resources and cultural resources, it's a great place to check out. And it's located in Martin Regional Library, separate from the Genealogy Center, which is in Hardesty Regional Library. And finally, I want to point out the Latinx American Genealogy research books that we have here in the Genealogy Center. Again, these are books that are in the Genealogy Center here at Hardesty, not at the Hispanic Resource Center. These are all genealogy specific titles, and you can find a link to our book list here at the bottom of the page, and I'll click over to that, and that goes to the link, the list of books available in our catalog. These books are not available for checkout. None of the books in the Genealogy Center are available for checkout, but if you come to the Genealogy Center, you can browse them and read them. And you can make copies of pages or take pictures of pages with your phone. Even though you can't check it out, you can always make copies. So we have those available to browse here. So it's always helpful to check out a book if you're just getting started too, because we have a lot of books on getting started. And another, I love looking up family names. There's a surname book here too, so that's fun to look into. So that is the end of my presentation. Please come and visit us at the Genealogy Center if you are just getting started and you want help in your genealogy research, or you want some advice. If you schedule an appointment with us, you can email us at our email address, jenaskus@tulsalibrary.org, or you can give us a call at 918-549-7691. And we will set up an appointment with you. You can also just come in to browse the books if you're interested in doing that and you just want to look around. We are here 7 days a week. So thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and let us know if you have any questions.